ever wondered why anything exists at all? Today, we re-diving into one of the oldest and most influential arguments for God's existence, the cosmological argument. For over 2,000 years, it has shaped how we think about the biggest questions of reality. So let's explore its appeal, its history, and its major weaknesses. This argument wasn't born from a single mind, but from that deep human curiosity. Ancient Greek philosophers like Plato and Aristotle started the conversation. Aristotle came up with the idea of an unmoved mover, something that starts all motion without being moved itself. He argued this was necessary to stop an endless chain of causes going back forever. Centuries later, during the Islamic Golden Age, philosophers like Al-Kindi and Al-Ghazali took these ideas and ran with them. Al-Ghazali's kalam, cosmological argument, was particularly sharp. He said, the universe had a beginning, and anything that has a beginning must have a cause. This version became incredibly influential. Then came the medieval Christian thinkers, most famously Thomas Aquinas. In his 5 ways to prove God's existence, 3 of them are cosmological arguments. He argued from motion, from causation, and from the fact that things exist but don't have to. For Aquinas, these chains of causes couldn't go back infinitely. There had to be a first cause at the start of it all, and that, he said, is God, even in modern times. The argument got a fresh look. Philosophers like William Lane Craig revived the Kalam argument, tying it to modern cosmology and the Big Bang theory. Another version, from Leibniz, asks a slightly different question. Why is there something rather than nothing? He argued there must be a sufficient reason for the entire universe to exist. So why has this argument stuck around for so long? First, it's intuitive. We see cause and effect all around us. Things don't just pop into existence out of nowhere. Second, it seems to align with science. The Big Bang theory suggests the universe had a starting point, which many people see as backing up the argument. And finally, it tackles that ultimate question, why are we here? The basic structure is simple to grasp, even if the philosophical weeds get pretty deep. So what's the core argument? It usually goes like this. First, everything that begins to exist has a cause. Second, the universe began to exist. Therefore, third, the universe has a cause. And this cause, proponents say, must be God or at least something eternal, uncaused, and powerful enough to create a universe. Now, it's important to be clear. The argument itself doesn't claim to prove a personal, loving God. It aims to establish a necessary, uncaused, immensely powerful creator. But now, let's put on our critical thinking hats and look at the major challenges to this argument. The biggest one is called special pleading. The argument says everything needs a cause, and then immediately makes an exception for God. Why? The response is usually that God is different, eternal, necessary, outside of time. But that feels a bit like making up a rule and then breaking it when it's convenient. As the philosopher Bertrand Russell famously put it, if everything must have a cause, then God must have a cause. If there can be anything without a cause, it may just as well be the world as God. Why not just say the universe itself is the uncaused thing? Next, the argument assumes an infinite chain of causes is impossible. But is it? Modern math handles infinite sets all the time. Some physicists even have models of the universe with no absolute beginning, like a cyclical universe that expands and contracts forever. The idea that an infinite past is impossible is a philosophical assumption, not a proven scientific fact. Then there's quantum mechanics. Our everyday ideas about cause and effect get really weird at the smallest scales. Things like radioactive decay or the appearance of virtual particles seem to happen without a direct cause. They are probabilistic. This directly challenges the first premise of the argument, that everything that begins to exist has a cause. What if the universe itself began as a quantum fluctuation? The whole argument could fall apart right there. Also, the Big Bang doesn't automatically mean creation from nothing. Modern cosmology is way more complex. The Big Bang could be a transition from a previous state, one bang among many in a larger multiverse, or just the start of our local cosmic bubble, not of all reality. It marks the beginning of the expansion of our observable universe. But what came before is still a huge, open question. And even if we accept all the premises that the universe needs an uncaused cause, that still doesn't get us to God. This cause doesn't have to be conscious, intelligent, morally good, or interested in us. It could be an impersonal force. And who says there's only one? You could have a committee of universe creators, for all the argument proves. At best, it points to some kind of brute fact about reality, not the deity of any specific religion. David Hume raised another great point. We see causation happen between things inside the universe, but we have no experience of universes themselves being caused. We might be making a category error assuming what is true for the parts must be true for the whole. It's like saying every brick in a wall is small, so the wall must be small. It just doesn't follow. And what about time? Causation seems to require it. A cause comes before an effect. But if time itself began with the universe, asking what caused the universe might be a meaningless question. It's like asking what's north of the North Pole. The question itself doesn't make sense in that context. Finally, even if it worked, the argument just pushes the mystery back a step. Instead of asking, why does the universe exist? We're left asking, why does God exist? Answering God just exists isn't any more satisfying than saying the universe just exists. It replaces one mystery with another. So, where does that leave us? The cosmological argument is fascinating. It formalizes a powerful intuition and asks one of the most profound questions we can. But its foundations are shaky. It relies on unproven assumptions about causation. It makes a special exception for its conclusion, and modern physics throws several wrenches into its gears. The leap from a first cause to a personal God is massive and unjustified by the argument alone. For a critical thinker, the cosmological argument shouldn't be very convincing. It doesn't mean the universe isn't mysterious. It just means this particular argument doesn't solve the puzzle. It invites us to swap one mystery for another while making a lot of logical leaps along the way. If you find this argument compelling, it's worth asking yourself, is it because of the logic or because you already believe in the conclusion? The cosmological argument is a testament to our search for answers. We should appreciate its long history, but also recognize its flaws. Good philosophy means following the evidence, and this argument, under scrutiny, doesn't quite get us there. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, consider subscribing for more deep dives into big ideas. See you next time.